Alrighty, let's have a look at sign diagrams. So they're pretty helpful when you have an equation and you want to sketch the graph. So it'll help you know when it's above, below the x-axis. Okay, now the two things that need to go on a sign diagram are any and all x-intercepts and vertical asymptotes. Okay, that's pretty important. We'll start with looking at if a question is giving you a graph. That's pretty nice because we can see quite clearly it has no vertical asymptotes, but it has definitely got some x-intercepts. That's a little bit hard to see there. I'll just circle that in a different color, but we can see it's got x-intercepts here and it's touching. So I would like to write that down. So I'd say x is cutting at -5, then we've got it's touching at -1, okay, and of course at 4. So your sign diagram, grab a ruler, pop your values on, make sure they are in order. They don't have to be drawn to scale, okay, I mean keep it reasonable. So there we go, and we look this side of the 4, right, so that side there, which would correspond to this area here. And you can see pretty clearly that all the y values from that point on are positive. So we put a nice positive sign there. And between -1 here and 4 and -1 there, right, that's below the graph. All the y values are negative. Same from here, they're below the graph, so that's negative. And after -5, then we've got that they're positive. So pretty straightforward. Okay, if you don't have the graph, so if you're given an equation like so, the first thing we need to do is actually solve for the x-intercepts. So it's a quadratic. We're going to try to factorize it first. If it can't factorize, then we're going to use the quad formula or our calculator. Okay, so let's have a look. Two numbers that times together give you 10 minus thereof, but add up to be 3. So it's got to be 2 and 5. I'm going to put the 2 here, put the 5 here. All right, we'll make that a +5 minus 2. So therefore, x could be 2 or x could be -5. Okay, here comes our sign diagram. So again, pop them in order. So -5, numerical order, and then 2. Now, because we don't have the graph, what we do is we pick a value this side of 2. Now I'm going to be big. I'm going to go 10. Okay, 10, and I pop that back into, just give me some space here, I'm going to pop that back into my factorized form because this will make life really simple. Okay, so when x is 10, 10 take 2 is definitely positive, and 10 plus 5 is also definitely positive, so that's going to be positive there. Okay, now I pick a value in between 2 and -5, so any one you want, -1, 1, 0. You could go -2.5 if you wanted to, right? But I'm just going to keep it simple. I'm going to choose 0. So if x is 0, 0 take 2, that's a negative answer. 0 plus 5, that's a positive answer. What's a negative times a positive? Well, it's minus. And then we do the same, pick a number on, that's this side of -5, so less than -5, I'm going to go -10. What a surprise. -10 take 2 is a negative answer. -10 plus 5 is also a negative answer. So a negative times a negative gives me a positive. Let's just have a look. Does it correspond with our graph? So if we pop that in, x squared plus 3x take 10. Okay, graph that. And you can see this, well, I'll show it to you. So G-solve root, okay, that's our x-intercept that we got of -5, and you can see clearly that over here, to the left of -5, the y values are positive, so that corresponds with our sign diagram. Between -5 and 2, they're all below the graph, so that's corresponding to the negative. So pretty straightforward. It's just getting you practice on finding x-intercept, so factorizing, quad formula, so on and so on. Okay, so we've done that one. What about this one, the rational functions that we've been looking at? So again, what has to happen? We have to find any x-intercepts and any vertical asymptotes. So we can see, or we should see straight away, we have definitely got a vertical asymptote because that's what makes the denominator equal to 0. Okay, so straight away we're going to write vertical asymptote x equals 6. 6 takes 6 is 0. How do we find any x-intercepts? Well, things have not changed. To find your x-intercept, you make y equal 0. Gotta love the consistency of maths. So if you haven't done this for a little while, you'll probably go, oh, x plus 2 divided by x takes 6. And you go, how do I get rid of the divide by 6? You have to times up on the other side. But what is 0 times x takes 6? Well, it's just 0. And then you're going, oh, yeah, why did I have to go through that? All I have to do really is make the numerator equal to 0 because 0 divided by anything is 0. Okay, so you can solve that. X must be minus 2. That's your x-intercept. So here we go. We grab our sign diagram. We've got minus 2 is our x-intercept, and you need to make sure that you indicate the vertical asymptote with the dotted lines, even on your sign diagram. And we do what we did before. So we pick a number this side of 6. You shouldn't be surprised where I say 10. All right, and we go, look up here, replace x with 10. So 10 plus 2, well, that's positive. 10 take 6 is also positive, so I get a positive value there. I now want to pick a number in between 6 and minus 2. I think you know what's coming. That's right, 0. 0 plus 2 is 2. And we don't care about the actual answer. We want to know if it's positive or negative. 0 take 6 is minus. A positive divided by a negative is a... Get a negative there. And then we're going to pick a value that side of minus 2. Okay? Minus 10. Minus 10 plus 2 is a negative. Minus 10 take 6 is still a negative. Negative times a negative is a positive. Right, so what we're saying is if we were to sketch this, this is going to be above the graph here, below, above the x-axis, below, and so on. So before we go to our calculator, let's just see how we can do this now. We already know that we're going to have x equals 6 there. What you don't know is that there is actually a horizontal asymptote of y equals 1. You'll learn that a bit later. And we can see we've got our x-intercept of minus 2 here, so it's going to go like, oops, that's not right, of minus 2. So it's probably going to go a bit like that, okay, because what's our y-intercept? When x is 0, so that's going to be down here at minus 3. That's an awful looking graph, and then we're going to go over here. Okay, and you can see very clearly that after 6, it is above the graph. Between 6 and minus 2, the y values are below the graph, and then that's positive. All right, I'll leave you. You can use your graphics calculator and sketch that yourself. Right, another situation here when we've got two things at the bottom that could make our value, our denominator 0. So we're going to keep our x plus 2. Right, downstairs, we factorize. This is difference of two squares. X take 5. X plus 5. I mean, I could have even popped a quadratic up the top and factorize it. Anyway, we're solving. So we can see that we've got vertical asymptotes at x equals 5 or negative 5, so plus or minus 5. And what is our x-intercept here? Remember, that's what makes the whole thing 0. And if we just make the top line 0, 0 divided by anything is 0. So once again, we've got x equals minus 2. So we draw our sign diagram. Right, these are the values that we have to pop on them. So we're going to pop minus 5. It's an asymptote, so we pop that there. We've got minus 2. It's not an asymptote, so I don't put the dotted lines. And then I've got 5. Dot, 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 dot. And here we go again. Pick a value beyond 5. Yep, 10. So 10 plus 2, I mean, you can pop it in your calculator if you really want to, but I just go 10 plus 2, that's positive. 10 squared is 100. 100 take 25 is also positive. Done. A number between 2 and 5, how sad, can't quite use 0 there, so let's just go 4. 4 plus 2 is positive. Now 4 squared is 16. 16 take 25 is negative, so that's going to be a negative there. Now a number between 2 and minus 5, well, I'm going to go with x is 0. 0 plus 2, positive. 0 squared is 0, take 5 is negative. So I've got negative, negative. And what about a number beyond minus 5? So let's go minus 10. Minus 10 plus 2 is a negative. And minus 10 squared is a positive, take is a positive, so I get minus again. And I just want to double check. So you just want to double check because really, when we've got this happening, what I should expect here, when you have minus minus, is that would involve it being x take 2 squared, right? But I haven't got that. So that's when I go, oh look, that's a minus 2, but I put positive 2 on my sign diagram. So make sure that you double check like reasonableness. So now we go back and we go, what's a number between minus 2 and minus 5? So this would now be minus 3. So let's check that. Okay, minus 3 plus 2. Sorry, I'll pop that here, sorry, so you can see. Minus 3 plus 2 is minus 1. Minus 3 squared is 9. Take is a negative, so negative divided by negative is a positive, and that makes more sense, okay? So make sure that you understand what it is that you're doing here, and is your answer reasonable? If it's not, double check, right? If you weren't quite sure about that, you can also graph it, okay? So go to your calculator, pop it in. What do we do? View window, it was still, let's go 10, 10, right? We graph. And we can see, if I had that negative there, right, what I should expect is that this graph will be underneath the x-axis, and it's not. So that means go back, double check, and now I hope you agree with me that this sort of makes sense. So we've got above the graph on this side of 5, we've got below the graph up until 2, so if I go gsolve, root, all right, that's minus 2, so you can see on the right it's below the graph, on the left it's above, and then on the other side it's below as well. Okay, so use your technology, use your common sense to make sure that you don't make a mistake. Okay.